Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show where we talk about TV shows that are of the supernatural, fantasy, and or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of The Mist. A very good episode with a lot that went down in this episode. Let's kind of break it down piece by piece. We have a lot of stuff that went down in the church immediately off. The father is slowly but surely losing more and more of the people in the church's attention because you have like more and more people listening to Natalie, and you have the boy, I think his name is Link. You can always tell he's going to be trouble because he seems the most devout of everyone, but it always makes you wonder why is he kind of so devout to the extent he is. I mean, it seems like his devotion is from another angle, and I kind of threw out there last episode that maybe something kind of happened to him to make him as devout as he did. Not in a good way, in the more sense of like it was kind of forced upon him in some shape or form. We kind of see that a little bit this episode because he's like, "Oh, Father, we've got to pull them back. Natalie's beyond saving, but we can save everyone else's soul. God's grace." You know, basically, it's like the church has other ways of stopping, persuading people to stop doing what you're telling them not to do. And the father's like, no, we don't do that. That's kind of bad doing that. But he's like, don't give me your permission. It's like, I know I'm doing this in God's name. And so God will forgive me because he knows why I'm doing it. So it's like, I won't need your permission because this way it's better. This way you're not doing something bad yourself because you're kind of being oblivious to it. So the thing is, he had the opportunity to stop it. Yes, he was against it, but he didn't stop him. That was the problem. And so when he got Natalie, he beat her, like he punched her in the face. He was going to do a lot worse. He picked up like a pipe or something. He was going to beat her worse until she changed her ways and stopped talking about the mist and stuff and Black Spring and just focus on believing in the one true God, instead of preaching for this false prophet. Natalie ended up leaving him in there in the mist. We hear him screaming and calling at the door a little bit, but then he stops. Granted, we don't know what the mist actually did to him, what the mist might have showed him, because as we see, it shows different people different things. So immediately this comes to bite him in the ass, because obviously the father, like I said, was all for like, no, don't do it, it's a bad thing, but didn't stop him because it seemed, and you see like him crossing that line of doing whatever it takes. Even earlier in the episode, playing the piano, trying to inspire people not to listen to Natalie, but they kind of just brushed him off because he's grasping at straws. And it's like, at what point is it just you trying to be a good, priest or, father, and you just trying to get control? Like I brought it up like earlier, like I always complain about Connor being power hungry. It's like he's legitimately power because he's trying so hard. I mean, maybe in all honesty, he is a very devoted man and he just believes like, no, I'm trying to save these people's souls. They don't realize how lost they are. I mean, I guess in a twist, you could also look at it as like you're just as lost as they are because you're willing to go to such extremes to get people to see your point of view and not hers. Like, is it really that damaging for her to believe what she believes? I like I said, you can see both sides to it, but it's like, especially at the end when Natalie's explaining it and everyone's like, oh, why would he do that? And she turns to the father, do you have any idea why he would do that? And the father doesn't say anything. It's like, it puts him in a terrible position. It's like any ground he had left is like crumbling beneath him. So that was just an interesting, like, twist that it would backfire against him like that, because the more time people will probably listen to Natalie, the more they believe in her and everything. So like I said, her story does seem like it is like I said from the beginning, like I had my thoughts about where her story would go, and it seems like, as the episodes are going by, I've brought up the fact is that, yeah, I was right to a certain extent, but not the extent I thought. I was kind of wrong about what she would kind of drive people's attention towards. So a different kind of, I guess, God. It's actually kind of interesting when it comes to this whole Miss situation, because she talks to Connor about the whole situation, which that's kind of so much I'm talking about. Okay, first talk about Connor and the father having their conversation. He's like, oh, I was there with Liza, and Jay used to come a lot too, but he's like, Liza, I was there for her when she was dying, basically, she was sick. And it's like, basically he was telling Connor, don't spit in her face, because she was a devout woman, she believed in God. Don't kind of spit in her face, basically, by siding and listening to Natalie, which is like, to me, I was like, are you really saying that? That's not really a, holy man thing to say, is it? I mean, I guess in his mind, it's the same thing as her preaching about Satan, because it's like, oh, you're being deceived by Lucifer's words. he can come to you in something in a very pretty package when it's deep down there's something evil and ugly that you're not willing to see. I can see it. You're just not willing to see it. Let me save your soul so you can see the evil that is associated with Natalie and everything she represents. But I don't know. The way he said that was kind of like, I mean, I'm surprised Connor didn't get pissed more about it, but it was just like, I was like, did you really just say that, dude? That's shitty on your part to say that, but I think that's even more so why Connor links up more with Natalie. Just kind of feeling, lost in this whole situation and her kind of the path she's leading down. I don't know. It speaks to him for whatever reason. But the thing is, getting back to what I was about to bring up earlier, is her kind of comparison to what the Mist is. That basically, the Mist is kind of like almost nature. That basically, she uses a comparison of like a story she heard about a mama bear who ended up killing her 2 cubs that she left behind, and then came back. Well, there was 3, but she killed 2 of them while like the rangers protected the 3rd one. The reason is because they were sick. She killed the 2 cubs so that this disease wouldn't spread to, the other forest, maybe some other animals and stuff like that. It's basically nature's way of keeping balance. So it's like, so that's why he was Connor was like, so are we the infection? It's like, we're not necessarily the infection. I mean, we as humans are part of the whole nature process too. So it seems like basically, from what she's saying, is basically nature trying to find a balance again. The nature's looking for something. Something's kind of thrown everything off kilter, and the Mist is kind of nature, its way of setting things right. And immediately my brain, I just think that's fascinating because it's also kind of tied into the military aspect, because we know they're connected to this Mist situation in some other way. So either they captured something that's throwing off the balance of nature, or they created something, whatever it is that they're involved in with this whole Mist situation. This is kind of Mother Nature fighting back, because it's like, hey, you're screwing up the balance of nature, and that's what they're searching for. Maybe that's why they specifically target certain people, because these people, I don't know. I mean, because it's something that kind of gets brought up in this episode by the doctor, which I'll kind of get to later on. But the doctor at the hospital is kind of like, oh yeah, the Mist is always adapting. It kind of seeps in, it gets to know you and exactly what it is that kind of gets your attention. Because for one example he used was, there was this lady who saw her dogs, and she was so happy to see her dogs, but her dogs basically ended up eating her. Once again, as we've seen, the Mist shows you what it knows will kind of get a reaction out of you. So maybe this is some kind of Darwinism to it, like that basically it's cutting out like the weak and leaving the strong. Maybe that's kind of what, I mean, that seems like might be what it is kind of alluding to. Maybe, I don't know, we'll just kind of have to wait to see more on that. But that was just kind of, to me, a very interesting way to put it, because, I've always looked at the Mist as like some supernatural thing, which it is, but maybe it's just, like, I don't know what its true purpose is. Like I said, we know that the military is connected somehow. I don't know whether they're directly connected to the Mist. Like, maybe, like I said, they capture something from the Mist that the Mist is trying to retrieve, or rather nature trying to receive. I mean, is it even really nature, or is there something else that's connected to the Mist? As we've seen, like, I don't know, like, what we've seen within the Mist, it seems like more like insects and stuff, so it does seem like the nature element, but maybe there's something in it for it to be, because it has to be something alive for it to be able to take on a form and speak to you, make you hallucinate the way it does, to make everything feel and sound so real, to the point that, like, for example, that lady's dogs could literally devour her. So I don't know, it's something to think about. Another big thing this episode was at the mall, where if Alex and Eve, and Eve's trying to make Alex feel better about this whole situation, because to her, she's still like, it didn't take me, maybe it didn't mess with me because there's something wrong with me, and she's even trying to take a positive spin to it. She's like, maybe this means the Mist won't hurt me, maybe I could go out and get help, even get Dad. Obviously Eve's against that, like, no, you're my daughter, I'm not about to let you put yourself in potential danger, maybe you got lucky, who's to say it'll happen again, I'm not about to take that chance. Also, we kind of already know how she feels about the whole Kevin situation anyway, but that's kind of like a smaller side note, and I mean, who's to say it was even on her mind anyway. But the thing is, like, you're my daughter, I'm not about to put you in danger. Which you could see it in Alex's eyes, she was going to do it anyway. But when she's packing supplies and everything, someone locks her in a room, sprays igniting fluid, and lights it on fire. And Jay luckily comes by and saves her, which obviously there's the hesitation of like, oh, you just happen to save me, which he's super pissed about. He's like, do I I want to be your hero or anything like that? It's like, I'm tired of you constantly blaming me for everything. So the thing is, he came to look for her because he wanted to move to the loading docks because of the whole Vic situation. Because he's the only one that, like, not the only one. There were other people who had their reservations about sending Vic on his own, but he was kind of like, we really shouldn't do this. But, like, you know, it made him cross the line and be like, no. They've crossed the line. They're going insane. So, but immediately, when it comes to that situation, my mind immediately thinks, I think the mom's name is Shelly. Why? Because she saw Alex and Eve together and saw, like, them getting jackets and laughing and stuff. So immediately in her brain, she's pissed off because she already hates Alex because it's like, you survived, but my little girl didn't. My little girl was only in that situation because of you. Once again, you gave your little girl permission to go off with Alex and stuff like that. If you had such a problem, you could have went with them, but still, you know, she's in pain, has to have someone to blame. And the fact is that she's seen them laughing about it, even though she completely missed the other parts of the conversation where Alex is torn up about the whole situation, like saying that she could have done more, but she's not catching that. She's just seeing them laughing and stuff like that. So it's pissing her off because it's just like, you're laughing at a time like this. I lost my daughter and you're over there chuckling and laughing considering the situation, you know, fuck you. That you could tell, like, that was a look in her eyes. So I'm thinking it's her. Granted, we don't know. Twists and turns, it could actually have been Jay trying to play hero, that it just happened to be coincidental, but they didn't see Shelly, but we as the audience know she was there, so she's easily at the top. I mean, granted, we don't know what would have happened if she actually had let Alex just go off. I thought they were going to have a physical confrontation of she was like, oh, where are you going? And she tells her, like, oh yeah, I'm going out there. Like, I wonder, like, if she had known that, she probably would have been more like, okay, go ahead and do it. I won't tell you. I don't know. Because the fact is, even on some level, Alex was not really 100% sure because she was hugging her mom and being like, I love you, you know, making sure she knows, just in case she didn't come back. But she just wanted to take a chance because, you know, it might work. I mean, but I think there's still a part of her that was rational enough to be like, hey, it doesn't. Which Eve finds out about the whole situation, gets snappy at Jay and everything. She's suspicious too. Which Jay's like, I'm super tired of you blaming me for everything. I didn't do anything. Once again, I'm inclined to believe him, but at the end of the day, we don't know for sure. Maybe it's total horseshit he is behind on. We'll just kind of, you know, continue to wait and see. But what, you know, surprised me is him standing up to her is like, I don't really actually think you'll shoot me. She's like, you ever touch her again? I will blow off whatever part of you touched her with. So, but you do have Alex defending him. It's like, look at him, he helped me and everything, which Eve is still reluctant. Like I said, I'm more inclined to believe it wasn't Jay who actually did it. But it's interesting. I wouldn't be surprised if they make the twist is that he really did do it. But I mean, I'm really kind of believing him in the circumstance. It is interesting because he is with them now, especially now that Eve found out about the whole Vic situation. But I'm very interested to see, like, where that goes from now on, because she's even telling Kimmy, like, let's keep an eye on him and stuff like that. So it's like, I'm very interested to see how that will continue to go. I mean, I'm also very curious to find out about the whole Vic situation, about whether or not he's really, like, if he's still alive out there or not. Once again, it does seem like the Mist is targeting specific people because it wants specific things from people. So, you know, maybe there was something inside of Alex that deterred it away. What exactly? I don't know. Maybe it's not even, you know, I mean, for all we know, going back to the whole military experiment, maybe it's looking for specific targeted things within people, and whatever it was, it didn't see it in Alex. Like I said, as we saw with the dead bodies, it didn't touch the dead body, so it has its reservations about certain things. So, and then obviously the big part of the other side of the story deals with the whole hospital/Mia side of things. An interesting thing with Mia's side of the story is obviously she went back to what is originally her house and finds the dude we saw at her place at the beginning of the season kind of ripped apart, trying to get her money and trying to, like, you know, probably get out of town. Once again, I brought this up in, I don't know if it was last episode, but an early episode. We don't know what it's like on the outskirts of towns. If you could even make it that far, the Mist will probably stop you before you could really get there, because who's to say the Mist is probably denser on the outskirts of town. Like, we still haven't 100% figured out why it is denser in certain areas. Like I say, it seems like the less populated an area is, the kind of thinner it gets, but then the moment people start popping up, then it kind of crowds around them. It seems like it works like that, at least that's how I've been kind of looking at it. So, but she goes back and weird stuff starts happening. She's hearing music because she goes into a room looking for the stuff. She ends up finding the bag. but the room is filled with the mist and everything. She hears a radio going on. She smashes the radio, but still can hear the music. But then she goes into, like, basically when she opens the door, she ends up going into the bedroom, her mom's bedroom, and then in the wall it scrawls, "Welcome home, baby doll." And she starts seeing her mom. So basically, it seems like her mom was sick. It seemed like some kind of illness where it's like basically she was trapped in her own mind. She couldn't really. It seemed like she might have been like almost probably catatonic, like she couldn't move her body. She was kind of maybe awake, but in her mind, she still had her mind, but she couldn't do anything. So the mist is like, "Oh, I'm sorry. You know, I was supposed to be taking care of you. I wanted to, but you just put me up in that place, which I'm not blaming you. You know, I was supposed to take care of you. I wanted to take care of you, but I couldn't. It's like, can you forgive me? I always want to tell you I love you." And it was even interesting too, because it was almost like an illusion type of trick of like every time she opens a door, she'd always end up back in that. Well, she'd leave the room, go into the kitchen area, and open another door and go through, and she'd end up right back in that bedroom. But then the mist is trying to get her to kill herself. It's like, "Oh, like, we can be together. You don't have to worry about it." And she starts slicing her wrist. And it's like, "Don't worry, no one will miss you." And then, you know, she was like, "No, that's not the case. Like, someone would miss me." And immediately in my mind, and it seems like later on kind of confirms that she's talking about Brian, or rather Jonas. Because that's the only person she's really gotten close to. I think it made her kind of regret what she did. Because, like last episode, I kind of thought about, like, why she did what she did. Just because she felt like Jonas was lying to her. It's like, so everyone's a liar. So, but I think now she's kind of giving him the benefit of the doubt. It's like, no, he was kind to me, and I'm going to believe in him. So I think he's the main reason why she came. I don't think it was necessarily like Adrian or Kevin. I think specifically it was because of Brian, aka Jonas. So it was also kind of interesting when she ended up like fighting back against her mom, and then the mom's body's there and her head's like cracked open, but the mist is seeping out of it. So I'm curious, like, how that works. Like, does the mist literally just take how does it turn itself into something like that? It's very peculiar, like, how it does that. Like, it can actually turn it into, like, almost a lifeless body, or a human, and know the things that it knows. You know, it's crazy. But she ended up going back to the hospital, which will circle into what went down in the hospital. Jonas had his confrontation with Brian, and Brian is like, you know, at first he's like, "Oh, you don't recognize me? I'm your friend," and then attacks him, and then he's like, "You're not going to get away with this. They're going to find you," and Brian inadvertently ends up killing him, which nothing ever happens, so I guess no one's come by to check on him in all that time. I guess they just kind of left him alone or something, because it never went back to that. So, because it seemed Brian later on changes his clothes, blood and everything on it. So, it does kind of perpetuate the fact is that it does seem, and he noticed that he didn't know anything, or at the very least, maybe he wasn't, like, the fact is he immediately was like, "Oh, I'm your friend," to kind of let him catch him off guard. So either he knew Jonas doesn't have his memories, or he was just saying it because, like, "Oh, you don't have your memories, do you? Oh, catch you off guard." I don't know. Pretty intense fight, both of them pretty crippled. You hear some bones breaking, especially on real Brian, and it's like, it felt bad for the dude. But it seems like it might be filling in that theory I throughout last episode, being like, maybe what we'll find out is Brian betrayed them. Like, the fact is, the reason why he attacked Brian, and it makes you wonder, was he lying when he said we're actually friends? Maybe they actually were before everything went down, but Jonas found out the truth and he wasn't all for it. So, you know, that's giving him the benefit of the doubt. Maybe there's something more duplicitous to it, that basically Jonas had his own agenda. Maybe we find out he's actually working for some other government group with this whole situation, maybe kind of like a double agent type of thing. Don't just throwing that wild theory out there, but I really think he found out the truth and he was trying to stop it. And I don't know. Once again, I don't know if they made him lose his memories, or maybe he just got attacked and ended up landing in the woods, whatever the case may be, you know. He sure as hell doesn't let anyone know about this. I am curious, will he bring it up to Mia, because he knows that Mia went to go visit him, the real Brian, so he knows about the other Brian, and Mia knows about it, so obviously they're going to talk. I mean, granted, they're the only people in the group that have secrets, that have shared stuff with each other, so. And there's also that interesting moment between Adrian and the dude from last episode. Like, before they were about to leave and everything, he went to go say bye to him. It's like, "We're about to leave." He's like, "So, you know, that was kind of fun what we did." He's like, "You mean literally me beating the shit out of you?" It's like, "Well, yeah, you know, everything else associated with it." He's like, "So, yeah, see you later. And it almost seemed like the dude, and both the dude and Adrian were kind of brokenhearted about it. I guess, like, you know, he had to kind of stay hidden about his feelings and stuff like that. You know, he's probably confused, and probably one of the few times in his life he feels okay, he feels good, and now that feeling's kind of going away because Adrian's not sticking around. Plus, he's got probably, you know, his own situation with his mom and everything. The reason why he was here in the first place was to get help for her, so he's got his own worries and stuff like that. But you do see kind of a sad look in his eye that kind of caught me by surprise, so maybe there will be more to that. And then finally, with the whole situation with Kevin, he ended up getting attacked by that doctor because a nurse had brought it up to Adrian that there are people in the hospital who are disappearing, and it seems like this doctor was behind it because I assumed the lady that Kevin saw him with earlier was most likely dead by now. But basically, he's getting people who are already quote-unquote sick, they're already dying, because he's trying to figure out the whole mist situation. Like I brought up earlier, like the mist is always adapting, so he's trying to understand it. It's like, why can it, like, infect people, and maybe if you understand it a little bit better, you can have an understanding of how to fight it. So he tried to, you know, use Kevin as an experiment. Testing the mist on him, which it didn't really, you know, it didn't immediately like kill him, but it did show him stuff. It showed him kind of like one of the gurney's warping. It showed him an owl, and it showed him himself. Now, as we know, like, the mist taps into like the deepest parts of you, so, you know, maybe that's dealing with the fact is because we do know, we found out last episode, he's not Alex's dad. I don't think I talked about that at all. Maybe I did. I think I didn't touch on it like I wanted to. But the fact is, keeping that from Alex, I feel like that might be something that comes up. But maybe that's why he saw himself, because it's a reflection of him feeling bad, because it's like, oh, this side of me. Because that's what this is all about for Kevin. Like, the reason why, like, Eve feels like she had said before, like, oh, he tries so hard to, like, you know, be like, he tries so hard for Alex, is because he's trying to make up for the fact is trying to love her double as much because he knows that's not his own daughter. And I think maybe that's what that's supposed to represent, because like his need of trying to be all the father she can have, you know, trying to be that father, knowing that he isn't, maybe that guilt plus that need to love her that little bit more just to kind of compensate, the compensation for that. Maybe that's what it's supposed to represent, because that need of his to always kind of be the cool dad, or just, you know, never really let her down, always saying yes to her and everything. Maybe he blames himself for what happened to her, so maybe that's what that represented too. The other Kevin never said anything, but, you know, maybe it's his guilty conscience about all that kind of spiral together, what that represents. Not unless there's more to it than that. I mean, it might even be added layer of like killing his own brother last episode. Yes, it was out of mercy, but that still doesn't make it any easier. I mean, he hasn't shared that with anyone, so that's something he's keeping buried deep inside. So, and it's a note I completely forgot to mention when I was talking about the mall earlier. Is the fact is that Gus and Eve kind of like bury the hatchet a little bit. It's like, why are we kind of fighting like this? And basically they create these notices to make everyone think, it's like, oh man, these notices, like basically they flew in from outside, and it's like, oh, what's this all about? Oh man, the military, they're coming, and they're kind of basically to give everyone false hope. So eventually they're going to be found now, especially because we know Shelley was kind of skulking around anyway. So there's a good chance she might have seen what Eve and Gus were up to. I mean, who's to say someone didn't? I mean, I kind of think out of anyone, it's going to be her, because she's going to be the troublemaker going forward. I wonder what will happen, like, when it all comes out. Because I don't know if she's really said anything to anyone else about the whole Alex situation. Because remember when she originally went to the other group, she was like, yeah, you were right about Alex. She's a liar. So I don't know if she really went into specifics about it. I mean, granted, the other group kind of heard about it, especially Kimmy, but it hasn't changed. The fact is that she's still tight with Eve and Alex, so she doesn't blame her. But once again, it wasn't her kid that got killed. So it's like, once again, you can't blame her, but, you know, still, so. I mean, the fact of the matter is, in this situation, you kind of feel like there's a part of you that's like, yeah, the military probably would help. I mean, but at the same time, you're also like, they'd help because they want to, you know, make sure everyone's okay, and no one really is the wiser about their connection to this. At the same time, it's like, if the military showed up, they'd most likely kill all of you just to kind of save face and be like, oh, something crazy happened, you know. Oh, I don't, you know, some gas leaking down. Might be kind of how they end up explaining this at the very end of it, but I don't know. Like I said, a very good episode, some very good developments, and I'm very interested to see what goes down in the next episode. Because we have, like, the everything being the circumstances that they're in, obviously at the church, like father losing power, the mall, everyone's more hopeful, you know, the attempt on Alex's life like that. And then at the hospital, the power went down, the doors opened up, and the mist is seeping in. So the group is heading towards a psychiatric ward because it's the place they could kind of huddle up for, because it's like the mist is too dense for them to really just try and leg it to the vehicle as quickly as possible. So, like I said, very interested to see what goes down. But really, that's all I want to talk about in this episode. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.